Ramayana Kalpavrksam.
I'm not going to go behind the podium because I love seeing faces, because if you don't see me, I have narcolepsy, so I might fall asleep. So why sit in the last bench? No exam and all. Come front bench. No, nothing will happen. And we will talk, because a lot of times, and I know I'm not an online person, I'm an offline person. If anybody WhatsApps, I will look at you and smile and say, ee. So I chose offline because I come from a tech world where laptops were ruling the world. But what if we don't have a laptop? How do we connect? And that's what Ramayana is, right? How do we travel without WhatsApp and Instagram and YouTube and human tube? I'm not a Facebook, I'm a human book. I'm not Facebook, I'm face look. So come, little forward, look into my eyes, because this body is a memory, not Google Drive. Thanks to Ananda Akka, thanks to Kavita Brihad, I'm here. And where do we start from? All of you woke up in the morning, yes or no, or you still asleep? How did you wake up? Alarm clock or nature clock? Bathroom clock or bird sounds? But once upon a time, we woke up with bird sounds. But today, do we wake up with bird sounds or alarm clock? Nature was, I'll use a little bit of Tamil, that's where I come from. Nature went out, watchers came inside. Flora and fauna is how our time was. Space was defined by flora, time was defined by fauna. I repeat, space was defined by flora and time was defined by fauna. Remember Kalangatal, morning the kaka will do ka, 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 ka. You know what time it is. What time will it be generally? Subha Muhurtam, the Muhurtam time when the sun turns red, that's when, same thing in the evening, 6 o'clock it's called, and what is the group of crows called? Parliament. Because at 6 o'clock, whatever you know, there will be argument, agreement, disagreement, you disagree to agree, and they will speak in their own sound. But it will tell you the time. How many of you yesterday while watching the Sabari Moksham could hear the sound of the peafowls? We've stopped listening to our environment. And I'm going to go off mic for some time. You can hear me, right? The reason is, what is the first vowel in Telugu? Open your mouth. Ah. What's the first vowel in Tamil? First vowel in Hindi? Sanskrit? Not the letter, the sound. The sound. What's the first? So Sanskrit, Tamil, Hindi, Telugu, all have the same vowel? Ayyo. So sounds connectors or disconnectors? Language connectors or disconnectors? I'm leaving it there. So take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. Ah. Don't do the English ah. Do the Telugu ah. Like ah. That ah. That akrantam, that you remember if you're married or if you have bosses, how you'll So take a deep breath. Oh, you see something happen to the body? Because every bird doesn't wake up with alarm clock. They wake up with ah. Have you seen that? Kalangata, when you work, what sound do we make? Hands up. Is that Telugu or Tamil or Sanskrit or Hindi? Because when you're born also, bathroom part also, da. Deathbed also, only. Is the pranama mantra. That's why Om came. It's not Om, no, O. The is the pranama sound. So take a deep breath. After drinking water, that will come different sound, madam. Open the mouth, because a lot of time when you're chanting also, they'll say open the mouth and chant, but today we do smaller sounds. Open the mouth a little more. And no judging. To sing, do you need to be a singer? To dance, you need to be a dancer, because the human body is beautiful, but to train is a different thing. But sing if you like to sing, dance if you like to tell stories, because we come from a Katha Parampara. Ah, ah, mute this for a sec. Rama read Mara. She just said Mara, and he said not Mara. And Mara, 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 Mara. Angyo a, Sita yo a, Krishna yo a, Shiva yo a. A is something today I'll take you there. And sounds is what we'll work with. And sounds connect us even before language. And that's why across the world, we can hug a person and still smile. And this body and sound and nada is such a beautiful part of our itihas, from the Ramayana to Mahabharata to even Panchatantra. We'll slowly go about it, because you and me are also flora and fauna. Yes or no? But today the flora is outsourcing everything to Google Drive and phone and WhatsApp, but forgetting we are also ecology. Let's get into, time does run, but the reason I start this with saying that if you are not ready, well, how do I start? Because in Indian tradition, the stage is not here. You are the stage. You're also performing. Like, look at the person next to you. Just turn. Say, smile at them. Because we go to so many places, light is off, we don't even know who's sitting next to us. But long, long ago, remember, they will look at 30 years back when you went for a dance performance, you will speak to somebody next to you. But now, are you over? Let's go. Networking, it was therapeutic. Sound is therapeutic. Nature is therapeutic. In India, therapy is not outsourced. Our arts is therapy. Yes or no? When you saw yesterday, how many of you felt a goosebump? That is therapy. Sound, visuals, colors. Can online ever replace that? Use technology, but don't use only technology. Because we are the technology. And nature is technology. This is the six senses, and that is what we'll get into, because sensorial is how we connect to everything around us. Smell, sound. Today, smell, do you smell the flowers outside today? Pochil, But remember our growing up years, look at grandmothers and grandfathers. So senses are going away, touch is going away, smell is going away. Only sight and sound is a little bit remaining. Talking. So I gave a TEDx talk recently saying talking, walking, and listening. 3 things that we love to do. The Ramayana didn't travel just because by people telling. People walked and told. Even if you look at the Mahabharata and Ramayana, the entire episode is them walking. Today, do we ever walk? If not for exercise. Krauncha to Asshoka Vana. Where do we start from? I'm sure you read the first Kanda, Balakanda, And when is the entire story of Ramayana told? The first Sarga, Narada finishes the entire story over. Which means T20 is not today, T20 was then also. If you have time, read the entire book. If you don't have time, first chapter, finish, over. Narada finishes and tells Valmiki, now see how do you want to interpret it. And how many of you have gone to the Hyderabad Zoo? And a lot of times we don't go into public spaces as adults because we only go as children or lovers. But next time you go to a zoo, look at the Ramayana from the zoo perspective. Anybody's done that? Please look at that. Have you ever gone to a park and looked at Ramayana through the public places? Please look at that. Hyderabad is a city of rocks. Have you looked at the rock and visualized Ramayana through the rocks of the Ramayana? Look, and start from the text, but go into the nature, because every word Valmiki has scripted is by looking at nature. But today we don't look at nature. So we've gone into the book, but let's go away. And that's where I begin by saying heritage, folklore, and ecology. And folklore simple means, folk means people, lore means wisdom. People think folklore means only some segment of people. We sitting here is folklore, ashte. Can this ever be repeated? That's all. That cut, copy, paste doesn't work in India. This room will never happen for the rest of your life and my life. In this Shanam is special because it's the only time in the world we are gathering together. This is folklore. Because look at a lullaby. Anybody sings lullabies at home? Isn't ecology there in lullaby? Isn't folklore there in lullaby? Isn't parampara there in lullaby? Today lullaby is online or poye poche, tata bye bye. Have you seen this bird in your zoos? Yes, sir, no. What bird is this? Flamingo? Such a tough question, no? Red-naked? Can I have a little more answers? I did hear one of the answers which was closer. That, like the head of department is answering. Heron, okay. Okay. Can I have a little more answers? I mean, as I said, you won't be on camera, you're behind the camera, so. Go on. Pelican, crane. You see how much our ecology is going out of syllabus, which is so tough. You go to the zoo of any part in India, you go to Ahmedabad, Delhi, Hyderabad, you go to the crane section, it will have the word Krauncha. The Indic word for cranes is Krauncha. But we've held down to the word Krauncha in the Valmiki Ramayana, but crane tata bye bye. Why is cranes interesting is, there are three types of birds. One is endemic bird, one is migratory bird, and one is waterbound birds. And the cranes are both migratory birds and endemic birds. And across the country, if you travel, you'll find different types of cranes. C-R-A-N-E, not the machine crane, real crane. Now tell me, have you seen this? Have you seen different versions of this? Stork is also could be closer, but where do you see this in Hyderabad? Do you see this in Hyderabad? Lake? Some of them don't come to lakes. They will come on the top of the tree of the lake because you look at the feet. I'm not getting into the technicalities. But have you seen these two birds together? Any Gen Z, Alpha, Beta here? And you remember what is one of the love language? Take your right hand. Take your left hand. And have you seen birds come together? What shape do they make? And the Saharas crane, every time it comes together, it will make a heart. Have you seen that? Now, heart came from thinking or from looking at nature. Even that symbol comes when they look into each other. And the Krauncha, like many other cranes, will always be 1:1. I'm not getting into that, but I'm saying when birds come together, one of the ways to show love is by touching each other and hugging. 5 laws of love language. But today, do we hug at all? We think too much. And this is to be to the text. One point, the first Kanda itself starts from the second Sarga, starts with Valmiki goes to the river and with Bharatwaja, and he sees a male Krauncha bird being shot. And how does he know a male Krauncha bird? Can you identify male birds with female birds? What's the most popular bird in dance forms and Indian literature? Peacock. Anga male. And peacocks, I mean, what do you use the word peacocks are dash? Fill the blanks. Then peahens. In humans, evlo gender bias. There are also gender bias, no? I mean, you put gender in everything, and that's why we don't. Have you ever seen a pea hens coming on stage anywhere? And we leave it there. But what is the collective term called? It is called pea fowl. Can we correct this also in terms of usage? Because peacock, and who's more confident, peacock or peahen? Peahen. Because peacock only does quack, 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 quack. Because it has to attract the female. Swayambara. So the Swayambara principle doesn't happen on the court, it happens in the bird. Every bird is doing Swayambara because the male will always have larger wings. But in humans, whom do you say beautiful? I leave it there also. And as you keep moving to the other kandas, you will again find the word Krauncha coming again and again, because it's also, I'm sure some of, I'm a reader of Sanskrit, I'm a student of Sanskrit, but I'm sure some of the Sanskrit scholars will understand the word Krauncha could mean multiple plurality. It can mean multiple birds depending on the context. And the Krauncha and this Saris crane, do we see in Hyderabad? From the geography, you'll also understand where was Valmiki when he wrote about the Krauncha bird. The cranes in north is not the same as south. I'll give you an example slowly. Very simple. We did what, like how ma'am said about yesterday's production. Can you identify these three birds? And what does the crow do with Ramayana? Kakabhushandi. And if you go to Banaras, there is, on the other side of Banaras, some of you seen the Ram Leela. It was commissioned by the Banaras king. And one of what he commissioned was the Kanchana Chitra Ramayana. And the Kanchana Chitra Ramayana is told through the voice of Shiva, Parvati, and Kakabhushandi. And look at how crows comes in our life every day. How many of you still feed the crows in your house? That is also, we have stopped, is it? So many practice, because in India, ecology is not outsourced, it is in a house. Our columns are ecology, our feeding the crows ecology, because after the crow eats, other birds will come and eat. But today only the pigeons come, that's a different story. But every species is so beautiful. And why is crow coming? Because crows are not migratory, crows are endemic, they don't travel. So the crows knows your language. The moment you get up in the morning, they'll know you're gotten up. And they're very intelligent. And how many of you have read the Thirsty Crow story? How many of you have seen the crows on the road? Have you seen them drink water? What a phenomenal looking, it's called ethology. The study of animal behavior is called ethology. Like psychology is human behavior. And we saw the bird drinking water. We created the thirsty crow. But today, the crow is also moving out from the city. That is how much of anima did we use in creating our Katha Parampara. But today, can you create a Katha Parampara story just by looking at nature? Even the tree outside is not even Hyderabad tree. Look outside. And that's the beauty of it. Eagle or kite? I leave it there. I mean, if any ornithologists are there, we can argue. This is an eagle. And two beautiful works that I've been studying in depth is the Panchatantra and the Hitopadesha. And I'm a storyteller, so let me tell you a story. Vulture. And how many of you have siblings? And when you read Jatayu and Sampati, how many of you could connect your sibling rivalry with those two brothers? Same, no? In the bed also they will fight. How many of you have done pillow fight? And that's what Jatayu did to Sampati, and then he got burnt and he went away. And the same people we love, we also hurt and hate. And vice versa. So the Hitopadesha has a story about a blind vulture. How do stories start? Together, crowdsource. How do stories start? Louder. Once upon a? In Telugu? Anaganaga oka rozu. Usually when you say that, you see your hand. Can you tell Anaganaga oka rozu? Take a deep breath. And say, Tamil or vulture. Vulture, what is in Telugu? See, the number of voices are reducing. Sometimes we don't know the vernacular words for our nature. Let's even figure that out. So there was a blind vulture, and this blind vulture had to, again, had to live in some places. So the blind Vancha found a nice little tree, went into the tree, and told all the daddy, mummy that I will take care of your children because I'm going to babysitting because I can't see. You can do whatever you want. And time passes, and then comes a cat. Now, cat is also very, very, because when you say cat, it doesn't mean only pussy cat. It means the cat family. And the cat comes and sees that it's a prey. Now, who's the villain in the story? But cat is also the mother and father, no? Because in the Panchadandana Hitopadesha, you can never understand the story by one story. To understand one story, you have to read the next story. And to understand this story, you have to read the previous story. But we never do that. We judge the book by the... And we're going to use the word antagonist instead of villain. Will that... Because without an antagonist, can a story move? And that's how the Ramayana is so beautiful, because the antagonists are not in big sizes. They come in small little movement and shift the story arc. Because if it's not a story, we will forget so many things, no? And the blind vulture was doing that, and the cat said, I will help you, I'm Atiti Devo Baba, gave all the principle, and the vulture believed. Do you all believe your neighbors? But once upon a time we believed, no? I once went to Arunachal, and an officer said, my father brought me and my brother here and told, this is your land, that is your land. I said, that's all. No paper. He said, in India, in Bharatadesha, when truth is there, you'll believe the orality. When truth went away, paper came into place. Now remember, your grandparents, parents will say, Kudutha vaaka. But today, do we do that? We have to send a mail, one WhatsApp message, and then a reminder also. And the blind vulture trusted the cat and let the cat inside. And what did the cat do? Tummy full. And the parents of the birds came and looked at the blind vulture and saw the skeleton of the children and killed the... Now, if you just look at it, it's a linear story, but there's a lot more interpretation to this. And one of the interpretations is saying that today we use the friend in a very loose word, right? Anybody's even Google the meaning of friendship? It's not somebody who just comes and gives you a Facebook request. It takes years and years and years to make a friend. And that the story ends by saying, if you need to trust, spend time. Don't jump. Time is one way to understand relationship. And that's how this story ends in the Hitopadesha. And if you go to the zoo next time, please observe the vulture. Have you seen anybody seen a vulture in the zoo or birding? Do they move at all? What fascinating raptors, no? They're meditating and they don't even move their neck. And they're one of the oldest, I'm saying in terms of evolution, one of the oldest evolution. And they're meditating all the time. And what a beautiful creature, no? And in general, in etymology, when you tell children, we say beautiful bird, which example do we give? Parrot. When we say that, when we say an ugly bird, or, the oxymoron for it, what birds do we give example? Somebody said that. Well, Asingamana society sometimes we become into, no? Because how in nature is that beautiful and ugly? And all the species that's there in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, Ganesha's rat, we moved into one section. And how did Valmiki even understand that and put that as a protagonist in a certain way? Knowing that we judge it only by the cover. Next, and today vultures, I'm sure some of you know, are endangered. And you know where the first reserve forest for vultures are? You've seen Sholay, anybody? Bangalore, Sholay. What is the area that comes to your mind? Ram, that's Ram. Ram Nagara, and that is where the vulture conservation site today is. Where did Jatayu meet? I leave it there. And Sampati, where did he meet? I leave it that also. Because geography is also interesting. And you move to the second kanda, you move to many other kandas, you'll find repetition of the words. And every time Valmiki uses the word peacock, he doesn't mean the beauty of the peacock, he says the sound of the peacock. If you look at again and again and again, because in every species, there will be the male or the female, the sounds vary. Like, some of you had dogs, you'll understand how the male and the female sounds are very different of the same breed. So the male peacock, the peacock and the peafowl don't make the same sounds. So for that, and who's louder, peacock or if you go to a farmer and ask them, oh, do you have a beautiful peafowl? They'll say, ayo, yappa. At the end of that, because that keeps shouting all the time. "Ka, ka, 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 ka." One time is music, 10 times, 20 times. And they're a pest. And he uses peacock to look at the distance of the land, because the sound can come from so far away, like Yojana. Are these two monkeys same? Okay, any idea what's different between, anybody's gone to Jammu? You know, in Jammu there's a Ram Mandir in the heart of the city. You know the name of the temple? Raghunatha temple. And if little outside the Raghunatha temple, you'll find the monkey, the first monkey. And Jammu is filled with that monkey, which is not the same as the Hyderabad and Chennai monkey. Now I'll get a little bit technical. So the first monkey is called the rhesus macaque. The second monkey is called the bonnet macaque. The south of India has the bonnet macaque, whereas the north of India has the rhesus macaque. And you'll figure that both of the behavior is different, which means the monkeys that's represented in the north of India in the Kandas, behavior will be different to the monkeys that's represented. This is not the Vanarasena. He uses the word just monkeys also. Will be different. And if anybody understands who is more fidgety, the rhesus macaque or the bonnet macaque, when I've rescued monkeys, so the rhesus macaque can't even stand in one position. They'll be jumping all the time. But the bonnet macaque will come to your house and say good morning. The other, of course, the langur, and langur is part of the primate family. Langurs are not monkeys, macaques. So that's another deviation. And three pan-Indian animals. And you see a bear on the top. What bear are we talking about? And how many bears are there in the world? There are only about 6 to 7 types of bears in the world. And half the bears are in India. The sloth bear, the Himalayan bear, and the grizzly bear. Okay, I'm a storyteller. Third one, Google and find out. Half the bears are in India, which means this, I'm not even India, I'm saying Bharat Desha, which means bears, and today these three, I'm sure if you open the newspaper, every newspaper will have at least a human-animal conflict about these three species today, yes or no? And today, is it increasing or decreasing? So much of human-animal conflict, the elephant and the tiger, and I'm sure some of you will have friends who will show an elephant, but it will be an African elephant. Asian elephant is different, African elephant is different, and the sloth bear. And if you go to any of the area around the buffer zone, which animal of these three do you think people are frightened of? Bear. Any idea why? Hugely unpredictable, because the tiger at least hates humans. The elephant, tata bye-bye. But the bear also has vision, so it will come closer to you because it has to smell you. And once it smells you and realizes you're a human being, it will go and whack patak. And the nails are so small, it goes from here to here. It will do one scratch and it will go away. And by that scratch, and the sloth bear is interesting, and because they're bears, and you look at the color of the bears, and there is also a very common proverb that we abuse all the time. If a black cat crosses, you've heard all of this, it's a common proverb, and we also believe this, what black pussy cat are. Because if you go to the jungle, and today we talk about many technology because the electricity is there. 100 years back, even 50 years back, what were we afraid of? What was fear about? Darkness. Fear was darkness. In darkness, if you step out and you go to the forest and you see any of these animals, what color will they look like? Black. And when a black cat crosses and you cross, what are you entering? Their territory. And the moment you enter their territory, you will be like friend or dishum. Instead of telling you that, no, in the night, don't go to the forest because the cat will cross, what do they say? Black cat crosses, don't go. What did we do? And so this is, of course, in the episode of Virada that happens. Wild bears, tigers, and panthers will meet me up here. And the word panthers, how many of you have seen people use the word panthers for cheetahs? What is a panther? But you say black leopard. All the roaring cats are called panthers. They belong to the biological family called panthers. A lion is a pantherus, a tiger is a panther, a leopard. A cheetah is not a panther. Because have you ever heard a cheetah sound? Meow. It is not a panther. So when people say black panther, There's nothing called Black Panther. It's a leopard, which is pigmentation. Sometimes our idea of nature is so... And which is the tallest animal in India? When you ask children, what do they say? Enga giraffe in Hyderabad. What is the tallest animal? Camel. And have you seen all our deities have one vahana of animal? And they all also have a stalavrksha. There'll be a flora and fauna for every deity in a country. Which deity has camel as her deity? Hanuman, go on. Okay, Google. And you'll see how bears become vahana, how bear becomes a protector deity, and so on and so forth. How? Read this carefully. And tell me, I'm sure all of us have read some Puranas, Itihasas. Tell me from which Indian lore these three stanzas could come from. For lost and dead and past, the wise have no laments. Between the wise and fools is just this difference. No life deserves lament. Fools borrow trouble. Add sadness to the sad, so make it double. No life deserves lament. I put this again because lament is such an integral part of Dasharatha. Lament is a very integral part of Urmila, all this. And connection between Sita and Urmila? And everywhere lament is very common. And which text talks about lament? Bhagavad Gita, no. Panchatantra. Welcome to Panchatantra. This is quoted in the Panchatantra, first Mitra Beda. And sparrow, once you see the elephant, and elephant is small size or big size? And who controls elephant? Small size people or big size people? What a fantastic being, no? And it controls, and once upon a time, the elephant was walking in a forest, and the elephant, by chance, touched a branch of a tree in which there were newly laid eggs. The mother and father were shaken, and down fell the eggs, and the eggs broke. And the sparrow, and the elephant went past. And for the elephant, it's a normal behavior, right? And we also do that every day. We keep walking, and all of us yesterday, mosquito problem? How many mosquitoes would you have killed? But what does the Purana says? Don't hurt any. Theory is okay, practical. And when the mother starts lamenting, my kids have died. And she tells the father, you'll never understand the mother's agony. And she tells the father, please take revenge. And the father says, it's okay, we'll again, because the elephant is a large size. And the mother says, no, I will want to take revenge. And the father goes and says, I can't take revenge with an elephant, but let me at least address your problem. Let me take help. And it goes to the woodpecker, because the woodpecker knows the tree. And the woodpecker says, I am also too small. Let me ask the frog, because the frog can make sounds which the elephant knows. Because again, like I said, ethology, when a frog makes a sound, what does the elephant think it is? That's a water body. Beautiful. And these three got together. Three completely different behavior. And they said, now we can attack. And when the frog started croaking, and what is frog in Ramayana connection? Mandodari. And where is Mandodari's home? I leave it there. Somewhere in Rajasthan. Like I said, I'm a storyteller. I'll only confuse you. Rest, you'll have to do the homework. And the frog croaked. The woodpecker went and hurt the eyes of the elephant. Now, you can't look at that as hurting, but look at the lament of the mother. And the same lament happens in Mahabharata when two mothers lament in the last, who are the two mothers who lament? Draupadi and Gandhari. The first, and they lament so much. When Krishna comes and Krishna laughs, they both continue crying. Krishna says, how long will you lament? And he says, wait till I come back. And after some time, Gandhari sees something and she feels hungry. She sees mango. And anybody likes mango? Mamanka, yesterday, yeah. And she put her hand on, she was supposed to take the mango. And Krishna comes again and says, what are you doing? It's a battlefield. Where do you see mango trees in a battlefield? And what she was visualizing was the flesh of the people. And Krishna said, lamenting is okay, but there'll be one emotion which will take over. What is that? Hunger. And every day, what do we do? Pasi. Only after hunger. That's why you go to a temple, the first thing is your annadana. Only if hunger is satisfied can you, Maslow's hierarchy also, you go beyond. With hunger, can we do anything with hunger? And Krishna says, hunger is how it is. And come back to a sparrow. And the elephant is hurt, not because it did it intently, but sometimes we do things without a knowledge, yes or no. And the next chapter says, the elephant did it because it was a natural behavior, because its food was on the branch. How do you know that story? Read the next story. And how many of you know the story of the rat and the elephant, which you all learned in the Panchatantra? There was an elephant which crossed and stamped on the rat. The rat said, please help us. And when the hunter came, the rat laid a net. That's the next story to say that elephant makes friends with a smaller species. And how do we know these smaller species? Which story of the Ramayana is the squirrel coming in? Really? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Now tell me, where in the Ramayana does the squirrel come? I'm leaving it there. In the Beel Ramayana, the squirrel is the one which goes and tells Rama where Sita is. Because the Beel is based out of a region where it's highly forest dense. And once upon a time, all of us, some of us have been to Banaras. And near Banaras is another holy place of somebody who gained moksha. Who was that? Gaya or Sarnath. And in Sarnath, you'll find that Vriksha even now was meditating Buddha. And if you've seen most of the Buddhists or the Buddha followers or Buddhism, the head will be full hair or no hair. But Buddha will have something on the head. And why snail? And that is why the squirrel story is interesting, because how the frame story has traveled from the Ramayana, which is not in the, I leaked the paper, which is not, but how we created this compassion for smaller species, and that has traveled the world. Because when Buddha was meditating, his head was scorching heat in Sarnath. And in Sarnath, 45 degrees, 50 degrees, when you heard really heats up, your head is going to damal. And all the animals said, because if you look at the Jataka is for children or. And every animal will come in that story. And the elephant said, I'm going to help. But the elephant said, but if I walk, he will know I'm walking. He will wake up on the meditation. He has to meditate, but also the problem has to be solved. Easy or difficult? Very difficult. Remember, you have a boss in your office. You should ask for leave, but also not disturb their work. It's a very tough problem. And the elephant said, I can't go. The bird says, I can't, because my claws are so sharp. When I climb up the Buddha, he's going to scratch him. And every species said, we can't go because we will disturb the Buddha. And then there was one little one which was in the corner which said, can I try? And they all said, because that's how the Vanaras did to the squirrel, remember? Same story. And the Vanaras laughed and said, what can you do? And the same thing, they laughed at this little one. The little one said, I will do because I don't have to go back home to sleep. You all have to go back. I carry my home with me. 1 BHK, 3 BHK on my shoulder. And it started climbing. And it started climbing up into the Buddha. And because it also, if you look at this creature later, if you know it, you know what I'm talking. It also wets the place it walks through. Buddha felt cooler, not in large, but in little. And by the time it reached the top, the others said, I don't think we can do, but sometimes to be a leader, you take the first step, like Gandhi says. And so when the first one took, the second the family took, and 108 of them took together. And this is a folklore. Don't ask me where it is from, but it is a folklore. And when it reached, 108 of them were on the Buddha's head, and Buddha said, in the books, your stories will not come because you are my story. And what are we talking about? The snail. And today we have Buddha in many parlors. But next time you see, all of us have Buddha statue in our houses? And look at the head. And aren't we also the snail? And look at the squirrel, the same squirrel. And if you go into America, there is a story which says how the squirrel lost its stripes. Because why is the stripes? If you look at biology, if you look at the alternate, isn't it camouflage? Isn't it also, for example, white absorbs color or reflects color? That's all. So black and white, black and white, black and white. That's simple. That's all. ecology, there's biology, everything in that one stripe, that's all. And Rama doesn't have to say, this is why I put a stripe. Because it said, in this region, you might need to have little more. That's why some, if you go to squirrels in the Himalayas, they won't not have a stripe, they'll be plain-bodied. And, do you all see the exhibition upstairs? Which story is such a strong story for elephant? The Gajendra Moksha. And Gajendra Moksha is about two animals, the elephant and the crocodile. And if you open any of the African lores, one of the first stories will come which says, how did the elephant get its trunk? How did the elephant get its trunk? By which animal? Crocodile. How did they figure the same protagonist in both the stories? Not some other animal. The same crocodile comes there. Here it is ahankara and pleasure and worldly pleasure. There it is just the animal. And if you go to the Banagata Zoo, any of the zoos in India, the first line will say that many, many centuries back, the elephant didn't have its evolution. And the word trunk, little deviation, is a very funny word. How many meanings does trunk have? One is this. Second, tree trunk. Third, car trunk. Fourth, daddy trunk petty. And then the most beautiful attire that we used to wear called trunk boxer. It's called safety locker. My grandfather used to wear. Any bank account will be saved in that locker called trouser, which is called trunk. From fauna, we move into flora. And simple, more not so complicated. Krauncha to, what tree is this? Asshoka. What does Asshoka mean? Shoka. And if you go to the Bhavishya Purana, there is a story how once upon a time, every story starts saying once upon a, onde ಒಂದು ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ஒரு ஊர்ல, louder. Take a deep breath. Anaganaga oka roju, there was a cannibal who was roaming around and eating whatever he could find so much, and suddenly he came across somebody who was standing in one place and meditating. And he asked that person, sir, how do I become you? And the hermit said, in this Janma you can't be. In the next Janma, you shall become, sir, because the cannibal's name was Ashoka, you will become a tree under which Sita Devi will sit, but also Hanuman will sit on your top. You will be blessed both by, it's in which side you read. If you read from Sita's version, it is Sita. You read from Hanuman's version, because Hanuman's story is larger. If you go to the, like if you're across South Asia, the Hanuman version is louder. And there they say Hanuman liberated, and that became Ashoka, and that is how Ashoka. But now I leave it there. Anybody, if you look at Indian medical practices, who are the first doctors in India? Tree. If you go, and the moment you're not feeling well, what will your grandparents say? Go to a particular temple, and in the temple, circle the. So trees are doctor tree, you know? Yes or no? And chicken box, which tree? Mariyamma, Mariyamma, Kula Deviyamma, Deviyamma, Kakavanda, Magamai. What is Mariyamma? And what is the parallel of Mariyamma in Andhra? Renuka Devi, Yellamma. Yola Kolladaga Irivalayamma, Nijatari Nodanuba, Yellamma, Ata Nodanuba. And what's common between Yellamma and Mariyamma? Both of them are same. And who, there's, you remember the other Rama in the Dashavatar? Parashurama. Yellamma and Mariyamma are Renuka Devi, who was cut by Parashurama, who was Renuka Devi. That story for another day. And if you go to Uttarakhand, it's a folk tale, which means that don't ask me source, no copyright. You can also take the story, because in India, we are open source, right? Today, many things we talk about open source. Please take these stories. None of it is mine. It's yours and mine. It is ours. Because it's as much as yours as mine. Because what do I own? Nothing. It's ours. Anybody's been to the Uttarakhand region? Long, long ago, so long ago, there was a farmer. And how does a farmer look? Any idea? How does a farmer look generally? All that we'll put caricature thing. And there's a farmer, and there was Mr. Farmer and Mrs. Farmer. And one day, farmer got a lot of boat, took it to the wife, and most of the time, the micro banking will always be the women in the house. And she said, don't leave it in the house, let's go bury it. And they took the pot and went and buried it under a what tree? Ashoka tree. And long story short, times changed, and the farmer didn't have a good harvest, and the wife said, now go and take the pot. Those days banking, simple, without interest, that's all. And he went, dug the ground, and the pot was there or not there? Not there. Same story, again, and they both went to the Raja! But where is the Rani? Ranis will always be there next to the Raja. Unfortunately, we only take the Rajas in the story, but Ranis. So I've been documenting the women Ranis of India, about 25 of them. And the Ranis have always been the oral memory. We tell Bhopal, what comes to our mind? Quickly, fast. Raja Bhoj. What else? Kalidasa, gas tragedy. 110 years ruled by women. The longest in the world. Not somewhere else. Our country. Come back to our story. Longest reign, 41 years. Channa Bhaira Devi, not somewhere else. Namadesha. She was a Jaina queen. Come back to our story. And they went to the Raja and Rani and they said, and the Raja and Rani will outsource the problem to the minister, mantri. Always the Tanali Ramas and the Birbal will be the problem solver. Yes or no? And in Telugu, Tanali Rama is a joker or a Vedakavi? The longest poetry is by Tanali Rama. Anybody's read that poem? Please read. Tanali Rama is not a joker, he's Ashtadhikata. He wrote the longest poem, Tanali Rama. And his poetry, even today, is studied not by us, outside India. But here we look at him as a joker, no? Because sometimes the best brains in India, including our homes, will act as jokers. Because humor covers a lot of things. And they call the mantri, and the mantri said, bring all the people who walked across the tree on that day. And they assembled, and 3 people came, and the minister said, sit down. And he looked at all the 3 people and he said, sir, why did you cross the tree? And A said, let's say ABC, and A said, I had to go to my father-in-law's house, mother-in-law's house because it was her anniversary. And the second one said, I had to go because I had to sell my produce in the next village. And the third said, I had to go to the other village, we had to meet my doctor. Okay? And all 3 were sitting down, and now it was time to give the verdict. And what did the minister say? A, who went to father-in-law, mother-in-law, or B, who went to trade, or C, went to the doctor? He decided on C, and everybody was stunned saying, why C? And he said, in the Ayurveda, if you have a skin problem, the medicine or the leaf that you need to apply is and the C had skin rashes and pigmentation. And from that I knew that the doctor would have told him to go to the Ashoka tree. He would have come to the Ashoka tree. See in your, long story short, story over. Same Ashoka tree to Sita, same Ashoka tree to Uttarakhand, where it's a folk tale. How will people remember the tree? Through our story. If you understand, it's deep. Like Rajinikanth says, if you understand, it's a deep journey. If not, it's just a story, right? What is this? Any mention of bamboo in the Ramayana? Almost every chapter. Every forest they enter, the bamboo. Anybody has, and bamboo is a tree or a plant or a grass? I leave it there. I leave in the confusion itself. Lakshmana was quick to act, dug the clay with nippers, planted long bamboo poles, put branch of sami tree across and tied them with strong ropes. He spread the kushagra. I'll come to kusha later. And leaves on the level ground. He built a beautiful space, a nice residence for Rama. And sometimes the Ramayana also travels as Ram Katha. Yes or no? It also travels as Sita Katha. But what the word Sita Katha, have you ever heard? For example, who rules a kingdom? The king. What is it called? King rules a? Queen rules a? Use the word. Have you ever used the word queendom? English, not only English, all the languages are very, very interesting. So, once upon a time, when Sita was born, they say she had a 6th finger. And all the astrologers said that the 6th finger had to be cut because it's going to be all the maps say that things won't be nice if she has 6 finger. But then Sita Devi is from the earth. And she cried and said that anything that you cut from me should go back to the... And they cut the 6th finger and put it back to the... And then came the bamboo. So the bamboo came from a 6th finger. And I'm not giving you anything that's not Googleable. Please Google. Sometimes we forget to Google what is needed also. And if you travel, anybody does business storytelling, you listen to all motivational speakers. Once upon a time, there was a parent. And parents have expectation or no expectation? Little or lots? And they went to a counselor saying, "Counselor, my child is not doing the boo, da, boo, la, blah, blah, blah." And the counselor told a story. And he said, "Please sit down. Let me..." Because if you go to any of our learned people, will they tell directly, start with the story? Everything in our country is story. Purinja puriyum puriyalana. Keep the story. Tomorrow you'll understand. Yes or no? How many of you understand the Ramayana in your LKG and UKG? Now it's evolving. That is the beauty. If you understand Rama is a name, if not, Rama is a mantra. Chant it 10 times, you'll feel your back spine will also shoot. But we'll leave it there. And the counselor said, once upon a time there was a farmer, and the farmer took 2 trees. Give me a trees, any other plant name, sir? Any tree? Except mango tree. Banyan. Sometimes in India we say banyan tree. I feel very confused. And banyan tree. Any city in India named after banyan tree? Vadodara. Vad means banyan tree. Look at how trees also give rise to names of areas in Chennai, for example. Poonamale High Road, if some of you have gone, it's called Poo Irunda Malli, where jasmine. So if you look at your own Hyderabad, you'll figure how trees and animals play a role. And came to the banyan tree. So one banyan tree and said bamboo. And have you seen a bamboo, little baby bamboo? So small. But banyan E. Planted the banyan, planted the bamboo. And which will come out first? Banyan came out. And then comes out. And after some time, the bamboo didn't come. It was still there. And which comes last in a tree? Fruits. What a philosophy, no? Fruits always come in the last in our life. Understood what he said? What grows first? The roots. Visible or invisible? So after 15 years, again the counselor said, the farmer went and saw, and all the others in the village said, "Why are you wasting the other land patch? Grow banyan there also." But the farmer said, "Wait, my land, what is your problem?" Sometimes when others tell us what to do, we don't have an answer, no? Tell them, my life, I will take care. And 20 years later, the banyan tree was large and people were getting shade, but still the bamboo didn't. 25th year, the next farmer also went away. And then the bamboo started growing. And when the bamboo started growing, it grows slowly at full speed. Fatak, it grew. And then the same neighbor came and said, "Maybe we should have also kept bamboo." Because the cost of bamboo is higher than the banyan produce. Sometimes everything grows in its own speed. And aren't we also like the bamboo tree? Yes or no? Be like the bamboo. No pressure. Grow however you want. No, have you seen 2 bamboo shoots? Will they look similar or different? From far, similar. But you go closer, you will find difference. Please be different. And the bamboo takes its own time. And this story is there across the world. And Kusha is... where does Kusha appear? Whose children? But why does only Kusha have many stories and not Lava? Have you ever noticed that? The word Kusha has around some 40 stories I've researched. 40, 50 stories. Every land in India has a different version of Kusha story, not Lava story. But how did Kusha grass get its name? Because Sita went into the land. And who caught her hair? Not Lava, but Kusha. And so the plant, and the hair became the Kusha grass. And so got the name Kusha. Story number 2. They only had one child. And once the Lava was playing and got lost, and they were in whose hermitage were they? Was Lava and Kusha and Lava and Sita? Valmiki. And Valmiki came and saw that palpitation, child is not there. Where did he go? Where did he go? And he created another lava using the kusha grass. And when Sita came, she saw that, hey, I have only one child. Where is the second child? Who's? And she said, it came from the earth like me, so he will also be my child. So Lava and Kusha became her child. Story number 3. I said Mariamma story. How many of you have seen this temple of Karuppan Sami, Ayyanar? So how did Karuppan Sami, if you go even to Andhra, just go to any of a street corner, you'll find an Ayyanar or a Karuppan Sami temple. And once upon a time, Lava Kusha were playing, and Kusha got lost, and Valmiki created another Kusha, and when Kusha came back, 2 became 3. And like the Valmiki Ramayana, the 3 of them go to Rama's court and tell and Rama had a doubt. Hello, I remember having only 2. Where did the third come from? And what does the story says is that then Agni Pariksha was not only for Sita, but also for Lava Kusha to testify they were his kids. All the 3 of them went into the Agni, and one of them came back burnt. And that became Karuppan Sami, because Karuppa means black. And Rama said, because you are my child, you will also be worshipped. Not even Lava Kusha, but you will be worshipped because you took your life for me. And Karuppan Sami is across Tamil Nadu and many parts of India is worshipped. And the origin story of Karuppan Sami goes back to the same Kusha. Same frame, but how many ways the story has traveled, no? I'll leave it there. This is where it comes from. And the Kusha grass, everywhere you go in India, you'll find a Kusha story, not Lava story. Where do we end? Not all stories come from the Valmiki Ramayana, but every time the story has traveled, there's a word called culturalization or acculturalization. If you need to transmit something to some people, if you tell them, they won't believe. But the moment you bring Rama and Sita into the story, will people believe? And that is what acculturalization is. And some of these narratives have taken that form and have traveled not only in India, but across the world. You'll find versions of Kusha story, squirrel story across the world, but the squirrel and small beings, because in the American folklore, there is a sunbird which gave drops of water to a tree that was burning. All the animals laughed, and the bird said, I can save at least one leaf in the tree. And the same story goes to a child who threw back starfishes back to the water because she felt the starfish is going to die. People laughed by saying, why are you taking the starfish? Because there are thousands. Can you save all the 1,000? But she said, I can't save 1,000, but I can save one of them. And where did this origin story go? Somewhere back to the Ramkatha and the Ramayana. And every time these stories have traveled, and I'm sure we use the word Ramayana, but what does Yana mean? And journey is only outside or inside? Because Ramayana travels geographically, but also philosophically travels inside. Yes or no? So as a child, you will travel as geography. As we grow older, it becomes philosophy and spiritual, where you travel inside. And that's what Buddha said, Shankaracharya said, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, travel, but also travel. And every time these stories have been shared, flora, fauna has been used to talk about empathy, talk about compassion, to talk about respect. Because every time Rama encounters, and the way he hugs, and I'm sure some of us will agree, saying, Rama didn't touch the squirrel, because one of the very few people he touched was a squirrel. And touch is how he showed the respect. And even you watched Shabari Moksham yesterday. Why did Shabari come into the hermitage? Anybody knows the backstory of Shabari? Please look at our backstories in our country. We only look at like this. But the backstory of Shabari will say, she was feeling sad to hurt animals and eat them. She wanted to give up hurting, and she argued with the community. They said they didn't agree, so she took that life and she came out and she gave up hurting animals. And the last is interconnectedness. Are we interconnected? But today, are we really interconnected? All of us are wearing some clothes, right? Where does our clothing come from? Give me an answer. Huh? Weaver. Before that, where is the cloth? It'll be a grass or it'll be cotton. Isn't that a flora and fauna? All of us play instruments. Where does that come from? Flora and fauna. And we are interconnected with nature. Where do our food comes from? Isn't food also interconnectedness? But next time you eat, do you smell our food? Do you ever smell our food or do you gobble our food? Interconnected will come if our sensories are activated. And the Ramayana, at every time Valmiki opens a sensory before telling the story. Yes or no? And he explains, and next tomorrow when you eat your lunch, smell the sambar. And how many of you have seen when you smell your food, your saliva will come out? You don't have to swallow it. But today we gobble it. Please don't gobble. And touch it. Isn't this a wonderful spoon in the world? Isn't there a wonderful fork in the world? Why need a spoon? Is there any Indian food that we need to have a spoon and a fork? This body itself is, that's all. And how many of you have been heard saying, this hand can't be used? But I would say, this hand feeds and this hand cleans. Both are beautiful, no? You don't need a tissue paper. This is our tissue paper. We throw the tissue paper in the, we throw the fork in the, we throw the plates in the, but banana leaf, interconnectedness. And somewhere in Europe, somebody last month said, the world's first, most eco-friendly plates, which is made of leaf, come from Germany. We have been eating that even now. Yesterday I had, right? But we don't have a documentation because our documentation is the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. For it is bhakti, it is philosophy, it is geography, it is history, it is botany, it is zoology, it is mathematics, it is everything in one. Purinja, Puriyon, if you don't understand, start understanding. And these are two sources that I've taken. The quotes are from IIT Kanpur's website, where they've also given the entire Ramayana as per the Kandas. And images, Wikipedia comments, no copyright. And my 1 hour is over. What do you think this is? And I'm going to use this as a metaphor because, like stories, this is how the Ramayana is. But if you open it, you'll find this stick. What do you think the stick is? Pen to write, lovely. Self-defense, scratching. Can you give me more quickly? Painting, hair clip, one stick. And if you want to go closer, it's one of the oldest instruments in India, which you don't need anything. And the Ramayana is like that. We have the bamboo. For some, it's scratching. For some, it's a hairband. For some, it's music. But the stick is the same. And that is how the Indian itihasas are. To understand, go deeper. Don't look at it from one dimension. Please don't. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.